Roberto Clemente, Chapter 10. Que hizo Roberto? In July of 1970, a 90-year-old Puerto Rican man and his wife stepped off a plane at the Pittsburgh airport. They had just had their first airplane ride. The old man and woman were Melchor and Luisa Clemente. They were in town for a very special event. The Pirates were having a Roberto Clemente night at the Pittsburgh's new stadium. The Clementes were there to attend the ceremony in which their son would be honored with gifts and speeches. Roberto and Vera now had three young sons of their own, Roberto Jr., Luis, and Enrique. The children sat with their mother and grandparents and watched the ceremony. Melchor and Luisa did not know enough English to understand all the speeches they heard that night. Like their grandparents, the boys did not understand everything that was said, either, but they all understood the love the crowd felt for Roberto. Great cheers filled the stadium as Roberto stood in front of the microphone to speak. Roberto began to talk, but his feelings of happiness got too much for him, and he burst into tears. "I haven't got the words to express my thanks," he said, "especially to my parents, who are old now." Before Roberto's special day, his friends in Puerto Rico collected 300,000 signatures from people all over the island wishing him well. Then they tried to think of a good gift to send, but what could they buy for a man who already had everything? "I know," said one of his friends. "We'll send Puerto Rican kids who are too poor to go to ball games to Pittsburgh for Roberto Clemente night. We'll let them see that someone like themselves can become important and famous." The chance to share his Puerto Rican pride with the children would be the best gift Roberto could ever receive. 15 kids made the trip from Puerto Rico to Pittsburgh. They stayed at a fancy hotel with a swimming pool. At the ball game, they watched Roberto hit 2 solid singles and make some great catches. When Roberto had finished playing in the middle of the ninth inning, the entire stadium began to ring with cheers for a black Puerto Rican who started playing baseball with a broomstick for a bat. And this is a picture. It says Roberto holds his son Enrique just before the awards ceremony. Roberto would get more and more cheers, and in 1971, the Pirates won the National League Championship. They were to play the Baltimore Orioles in the World Series. Everyone said the Orioles would win the series, most likely in 4 straight games. The Baltimore team had won the American League Championships for 4 of the last 6 years. The Pirates hadn't won the pennant since 1960, 11 years before. The Orioles had 4 pitchers who had won more than 20 games each during the 1971 season. The Pirates did not have even one pitcher who had won as many as 20 games. "The way everyone talks," Roberto said, "we should be playing in the little leagues." The series began in Baltimore. The Orioles' field was in terrible shape. It rained a lot that summer, and the Baltimore Colts football team had just played 2 games in the stadium. The Orioles painted the bare spots on the turf green so their field wouldn't look so bad on color TV. Roberto took one look and said, "I'd rather play in a coal mine." The Pirates lost the first 2 games, but Roberto got 2 hits in the first game and 2 more in the second. Back in Pittsburgh on their own smooth turf, the Pirates did much better. They won the 3rd game, with Roberto again getting 2 hits. Game number 4 in Pittsburgh was the first World Series game ever played at night. About 60 million people watched on television. They saw Roberto come up to the plate and hit a powerful ball along the right field foul line. Was it in or out? The umpire called it a foul ball. The fans in Pittsburgh Stadium didn't think so. Roberto didn't think so either. For 5 minutes, the umpire and the Pirates yelled at each other on the field. The umpire did not change his mind. Roberto went back into the batter's box and belted a single into right field. The Pirates won that game, and the series was now tied 2-2. In the next game, Roberto drove in the winning run. The Pirates led the series 3-2. But now they had to leave their own field and go back to the soggy, torn-up turf in Baltimore for the rest of the games. During the 6th game, Roberto went on with his hitting streak. He hit a triple in the first inning. Later, he hit his first World Series home run. Still, the Orioles beat the Pirates in the 6th game, tying the series again. This one says it's a home run for Roberto. The World Series was now down to the wire. Only one game was left to be played. It would decide the World Championship. Roberto hustled in every game as if he were a 20-year-old rookie, but he was 37 years old in 1971. After a lot of thought before the seventh and last game of the World Series, he told a Pittsburgh scout, "If we win this one, I'm going to quit baseball." In the fourth inning, Roberto stepped into the batter's box and swung at the first pitch. He watched the ball sail over the 360-foot sign on the left field fence. It was the game's first run. Later, the Pirates scored again. Then Baltimore scored, but the Pirates held on, and Pittsburgh won the game 2-1, and the World Series 4-3. In Puerto Rico, after every game, people asked each other, "Que hizo Roberto?" That means, what did Roberto do? Well, here's what Roberto did in the 1971 World Series. He batted a .414. He hit 2 home runs. He fielded perfectly. He ran like the wind. He made 2 very hard circus catches. People all over the country saw Roberto on television and read about him in the newspapers. "Now the whole world knows how I play," Roberto said after the last game. "Is it true you are going to quit baseball?" a reporter asked him. Roberto shook his head. "I saw my wife as I ran off the field," he said. "She was crying, and she said, 'Don't quit now. Baseball is your life.' And you know what?" Roberto went on. "She's right. So I changed my mind. I'm not quitting baseball." This picture is the Pittsburgh Pirates celebrating their victory as the new world champions.